Hello, I'm Purple Rain, coach of the Baltimore Buzzwoles in the VBLS Pokemon Draft League. I have recently made a couple of transactions and I wanted to go over them, go over my thought process for them, and ultimately why I think it was an improvement to my team. So to start, who did we lose? Phalanx, Venonat, and Pikachu. All relatively low point Mons. Phalanx did make a splash in week one. I did not remove Phalanx because I thought it was useless, but it just became redundant with another one of the moves that I really wanted to make. Uh, and so I lost these three. Obviously, losing redirection with Venonat, Pikachu, I lost a fake out and screens, and Phalanx, I just lost a physical fighting type Pokemon. But in return, I got some other Pokemon that I think are really, really valuable. So to start, I got Tauros Combat. Tauros Combat is similar to Phalanx in that it's a fighting type, but it's better in pretty much every way. What I mean by that is it has higher HP, higher attack, higher defense, especially when you consider Intimidate, higher special defense, and a higher speed, while also having better abilities generally. And on top of it, more coverage. It has all the fighting type moves you could want with close combat, and Raging Bull really is the other big one, as it breaks screens. Uh, and then better coverage in that it has ground type moves. It has an Iron Head. It has Outrage. It has Wild Charge, Zen Headbutt. Assurance maybe will sometimes be used. Uh, and it has Earthquake, which is especially good given I have quite a few levitating Pokemon, levitating or flying types, uh, or Earth Eater on Orthworm. So really, Tauros Combat does a lot, and it's really valuable in that mode. Its utility is probably a little bit better. Not that either of them are really were going to be used for their utility, but it does have some weather changing moves and bulldoze pretty much. So there's some other stuff there, but not stuff I. Scary Face could be used for some speed control too, I guess. But really, it's mostly just a damaging Pokemon. The one area in which Tauros is worse than Phalanx is in its setup, specifically because it doesn't have no retreat, which Phalanx gets. No retreat was pretty good in my week one, but it just is not even close to. It doesn't come close to making up for all the other stuff that Tauros can do. Uh, so Tauros was the main pickup for me, and what initiated me wanting to pick up some new mons is everything was all of the transactions were centered around getting the Tauros. Uh, but then since I got the Tauros, Phalanx was redundant and I didn't really need it anymore. So I decided to go with Lumineon. The reason I went with Lumineon is because I was losing my main electric type, and so my water matchup, which was already bad, got way worse. And so I needed something. And Lumineon is a 5-point Pokemon, and it gets Storm Drain. And so that was the main niche for it for me. It has some other stuff, specifically utility moves that I thought were valuable. It has Surf, maybe to proc weakness policy as well. It gets Charm, Attract, sometimes useful, Tailwind and Icy Wind, Encore, Whirlpool for maybe some trapping, and I could use Perish Song on either Azumarill or Fluttermane or something. Uh, yeah, it's basically just here as a matchup fish for a team that I think I will need the support of against that has some strong water types. But then it also, like I said, has some cool stuff with speed control. Maybe there's a way to make Swift Swim work, but it just doesn't have the offensive stats to make that a consistent thing at all. But yeah, that's basically what Lumineon's going to be doing. I think it was a good pickup given that uh, I no longer needed Phalanx, and it was a way to help my probably worst matchup. Uh, and then I picked up Pichu. So Pikachu is 7 points. Pichu is 1 point, and that was the main difference between the two. That's why that's part of why and I was comfortable downgrading because during the past 2 weeks I've tried actually going through the process and building with Pikachu in ways that I thought would be useful for my team. And the more I looked at it, the more I just thought I could never justify any offensive Pikachu because if I'm giving it the only way to make it Pikachu offensive is to give it Light Ball. Otherwise, it's just not doing any damage. And if I'm giving it Light Ball, it's dying in 1 turn. And if it's dying in 1 turn, it's not useful as an offensive Pokemon. I should just get something else that can carry a Sash or is bulkier. And but Pikachu did have some utility that I really liked. Lightning Rod was useful for my Azumarill and now my Lumineon. Uh, and Fake Out and Screens are useful. Pikachu has all that, but it costs 7. Pichu has that, can carry a Sash reasonably, uh, and is 1 point, which then facilitated my trade up to Tauros. Uh, so yeah, I was happy with Pichu. If it comes in a game, that'll be cool. I could see it coming in the right matchup, but I could also see it sitting out the whole season. It's just a Fake Out and some screens, pretty much, with charm too, I guess. But really, it's it's just there to exist, and be a 1 point Pokemon on my team. Uh, Probably the best Bagmon available, at least to me at this point. And so I now have to look at my team and ask what are the benefits. Uh, so I was looking through the Olds draft review to see some of the comments about my team and also just stuff I've learned, stuff that they said that helped me with my team in general when they were talking about other teams. Uh, and one of the things that came to my mind was I kind of starting through like halfway through like a little bit through the draft started building around Donphan, which doesn't make sense. Donphan is good, and I'm happy to have it. It's a useful Pokemon, especially on my team. I think there's a bunch of great synergy with the Pokemon I have. But why am I building around a something? I think it's like a 7 point Pokemon or a 9 point Pokemon, whatever it is. Why? I have Fluttermane and Hydreigon. It doesn't make any sense to build around Donphan. Uh, and so then I was thinking about ways to help support my Fluttermane. And I've Intimidate was one of the big ones. I can Intimidate cycle with Tauros now, bring in my Fluttermane, and Fluttermane can do work when the physical attackers on my opponent's team are neutered. And so I really wanted an Intimidator, and Tauros was available. And so yeah, like the main purpose of this was to help build around Fluttermane. Uh, and then there were the other main critique for my team in specific that the Olds draft review, the people in the Olds draft review had, was that I was lacking physical damage, and I don't really agree with this. I still think that Donphan, Azumarill, and Phalanx slash Orthworm slash whatever had enough physical damage for me to be fine. But it also was lacking in physical damage to the point where I felt that if I was going to run a Azumarill, I would almost always want to run it as either choice band or assault vest, but always huge power as its ability. And I wasn't able. It made it less flexible than I would have wanted. I now feel with Tauros, that's another super legitimate physical attacking Pokemon that has to be watched out for. I have more flexibility in how I want to run my Azumarill. So now I can have thick fat Azumarill, sap sipper Azumarill, and really just be able to be less predictable week to week, which I think is really valuable. And I think I have net improved my water type matchup because Pikachu was good for it, but it was like the only thing that I had, and it without a Storm Drain or anything, uh, Pikachu on its own is not it has no defensive capabilities, so it doesn't help me defensively in the water. Uh, against water types, whereas Lumineon helps me defensively against water types, which I think is just super important. So yeah, that's why I made the moves I made, and I think my team is a lot better for it. I'm excited to see these Pokemon come out to different matchups and how people adapt to the in the team building process against me to the Pokemon I've now gotten. Thank you so much for watching. I should hopefully in the next week have a video covering my week 2 matchup, and I will see you then.